Morning. We're going to do a recap. So our first question is, who wants to read our first question?
I'll read.
Okay.
In which territory is revivalism practiced? A. Jamaica, B. Indentured, C. St. Lucia, D. Haiti. Should I answer those first?
Yes, which one is the correct one?
Oh, A. Jamaica.
Jamaica. All right. Thank you very much. So the first one is Jamaica. That's the answer. Anyone else volunteering for the second question?
Me,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Hunter.
cassava yams, dasheen, and edos represent part of the diet of slaves.
All right. Good. The next one, another volunteer. Asha Gardner, I want you'd like to read this question for me, please. Number 3.
No, sir.
You can go ahead and read it. I'm requesting you for you to read it.
Okay. Which religious groups were banned in between 1917 to 1950?
Read the responses.
A. Revivalism and Protestant. B. Spiritual and Shouter Baptist. C. Voodoo and Santeria. D.
Yes, it's Santeria. Yes.
Santeria. And D. Santeria and Revivalism.
All right, class. Which one is the answer?
Sir, is it C?
Voodoo and Santeria was banned. All right. Anybody agrees with that answer C? Hunter?
Sir, I don't know. I think it's D. I don't know.
I think it's B as
Sir,
well,
is it B?
but I'm not sure.
Who
Sir,
said
I
B?
know you were talking about the Baptist, the spiritual Baptist, but I don't see that as an option.
Spirituality in B. See there, spiritual and
Oh,
Shaka
I didn't see that.
Baptist.
I didn't see that.
Oh,
Maybe it's then.
all right. The answer is B. B as in boy. The religious groups, these religious groups were banned between 1979 to 1951, and they were banned in Trinidad, the spiritual and the shouter Baptist. All right. Next question.
Sir, can I do that one?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, revivalism was formed in the year A 1660, B 1760, C 1860, D 1960. The answer is C 1860.
All right. Very good. Very good. All right. Good. This number 5. Any reader for number 5? Ladies, if you don't know the answer, it's okay. We're going to discuss it as a class.
Sir, I'll read it.
Okay, go ahead.
Breadfruit and jackfish is the national dish for which territory? A. Guyana, B. Saint Lucia, C. St. Vincent, or D. Barbados? I think it's cat.
Saint Vincent.
Vincent.
Yes, it is Saint Vincent. Uh, Next one, six.
Sir, I'll read.
Right?
Um, koi koi flying fish is
It's
popular on
actually
which island?
pronounced Kuku.
Koi, Kuku.
Yeah.
Kuku, sir? Yeah, and flying fish is popular on which island? Sir, Barbados.
All right. Good. Seven.
I can read, sir.
Go ahead.
In 1793, William Bligh arrived in the Caribbean with breadfruit trees from Africa. On which Caribbean island was breadfruit first planted? A. St. Lucia, B. Jamaica, C. Barbados, and D. St. Vincent. D. St. Vincent.
D. Saint Vincent. Very
Sir, I'll
good.
read this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Which island was known as the Helen of the West Indies? A. St. Lucia, B. Jamaica, C. Barbados, D. St. Vincent. The answer is A. St. Lucia.
Saint Lucia. Saint Lucia was known as the Helen of the West, and the Helen in Greek mythology was the most beautiful woman, right? So that's why it's referred to as the Helen. Nine.
Sir, I'll do that one.
All right, go ahead, Jackson.
To what section of the slave trade does the Middle Passage refer? A. The journey from West Africa to the New World. B. The interior of the coast of West Africa. C. The Caribbean sugar plantations to Europe. And D. West Africa to the slave trading ports of Europe. The answer is A.
A. The journey from West Africa to the New World. You are correct.
Yeah,
Eh,
I'll go
Go
for 10.
ahead for
The
10.
combination of different forms of belief or practice is called A. Syncretism, B. Reconquista, C. Ecominda,
Yes, encomienda, yes.
Ecominda, and D. Pluralism. The answer is A. Syncretism.
Syncretism. All right, you are correct. Now, ladies, syncretism, as we would have looked at yesterday, would have been the the two the when two different groups, especially the revivalism, Shouter Baptist, Voodoo, Santeria, these are our syncretic religions. Also, because they are mixed with both African and European forms. All right, very well, ladies. Most of you, how many are from the 10 questions? Who got five? Correct. I should have asked. I will ask the next class to record them to see how much they will get. All right. Anybody knew most of the questions, the answers for most of the questions?
Yes, sir.
All right, good, good.
Yes.
All right. So, ladies, look, so this is our timeline today, and I'm asking someone to tell us where on our timeline, our historical process timeline that we are currently at. Not present day, but by studying where are we at.
We are at the coming of indentured laborers from India, China, Africa, and free village peasantry.
All right, excellent. So we're at this part of our timeline. So you see the timeline seems very long. It is a lot of period we're studying. However, we would have looked at the from the crossing of the Bering Strait, the migration of the various indigenous groups coming of the European and the African, and now we're at the coming of the various indentured groups. All right, good. Now, what is indentureship? Indentureship. When you hear the word indentureship, what comes to mind? Go,
Sir,
go ahead.
sir, is it like work by contract?
Work by contract. Yes. Anyone else? Elias, you had your hand up. Indentureship.
Yeah, it's a system of gaining a labor force using contracts, like Dee just said.
All right. Good. Anyone else? And why indentureship? Anyone? So it is correct. So indentureship is an old English word that actually means contract, right? Uh, our indentured servants are lab contract laborers. So, for example, I'm not on a contract, but I know people who are on contract right. They need, they're in a job and they have to sign a contract. And so those persons, if they were living in the early 1900, they never used to use the word contract. They used to use the word index. So that person is would today, if they were living in the 1900s, would be a contract labor. And most of the work today is going back to contract labor. Anywhere you're working right now, you have to sign a contract. And most time, these contracts are not long-term contracts. The indentured servants are laborers. When they came to the Caribbean, their contract was usually 5 to about 8 years. So 5 to 8 years. Today, in today's world, you sign a contract for a year. You can also go ahead and sign a contract for 2 years. The most they will give you for on a contract is 3. So the entire world now is on contract. After 2 years, you renew your contract. So people are always working, working, working to prove themselves that they can, that they will remain on their contract, with the exception of some government workers. Once you get on, you might be working maybe for a period of time and they will give you like tenure or something like that. And you have your job for life. Not so in the new world. Even in the government today, they are putting everyone on contract. So we're back in the 1900s where everyone is on some form of contract.
Sir, would you say that's like good or bad, or at least like, I don't know, is that good?
I think it is, I personally, it is bad because bad for the worker. Because just imagine, if suppose, say for instance, you work at an institution, maybe at a bank, and a bank is a perfect example. You don't have tenured position there anymore. So every year you have a, what do you call it? They give you a 1 year contract. You are indentured for 1 year. Say for instance, I started my contract in June. You know, know the type of person I am. You see, once it reach March, I start worry because I'm going to start to worry if they are going to renew my contract, and if they don't renew my contract, what am I going to do and all of these? So I'm going to start to worry. So for the worker, it is not good because the worker is always going to.
So, sir, my question is, wouldn't it be better to be on a 1 year contract because at least you know you're guaranteed rather than next month they're just like, oh, you know, you're not doing well, bye. Like, isn't that in a sense better?
No, even if you're on a 1 year contract, they can tell you by within the year. That's usually a clause of the contract. But but like after the 1930s, uh, we would have moved away from contract labor. And so usually when somebody gets a job, they get a 10 job. So that a 10-year job is that you get the job until lifetime. So you decide when you want to leave or not. Right now, as contract laborers, you're not entitled to certain. So for example, like most of you are young ladies coming up and uh, you're leaving school at the end of next year. And say, for instance, the next 5 years, not even the next 5 years, but say the next 2 years, when you're at university, you meet a young man, both of you get married. Uh, the He's on a contract, you are on a contract. Your contract doesn't entitle you to maternity leave because you're a contract laborer, you only work for a year. So in the event that you should get pregnant within the year, then listen, the boss will say, all right, I'll find someone. So you now have to wait until you get tenure before you and that young man decide that all right, we are going to have a child. And so that is not good mentally, and it's not good also for families, especially young families who are maybe trying to have a child. And you know that once you reach a little older in your years, it is a little harder for concept. Like if you reach like maybe up in your 40s. And usually that is when you're well established and you don't have to worry about contract. But even right today, a lot of people worrying about contract. During the election, I think one of the leaders tried to bring that debate up about the different contract labor, the new form of contract where everybody is doing contract right now, and it's not good for the workers. During the COVID, I believe one bank in Jamaica would have laid off quite a lot of people from senior position, way up the top from manager, come straight down. And when you're on contract, people tend to treat people badly because you they let it because you want them to renew your contract, so they tend to treat them bad. Anyway, so in the same way, we are going back to our contract system today, and it has always been here. It has never gone anywhere, but it is more prevalent now. You have the Europeans who would have introduced contract laborers in the Caribbean. And contract laborers had quite a lot of problems. In fact, there was a book that was written by you thinker that said the title of his book is A New Form of Slavery. And he would have likened indentured workers, or more so Indians, to slavery, to say that the conditions were very, very the the during the contract ladies, so the indentured workers, they had a very longer contract than what we are seeing today, 5 to 8 years. And after the 8 years, you either decide that you're going back to where you came from, or you decide that you're going to remain. Now, if you decide that you're going back home, then they are going to pay your airfare and give you some money and you go. If you decide that you're going to remain here, they give you some land. So, in any event, those were some of the terms of the contract. And if you're here working, they provide for you somewhere to stay, provide food, healthcare, all of these different stuff. The truth in that the places that some of these they indent well, the truth is that where the indentured workers would have lived, where they put them in the same slave huts. Uh, and the slave huts were not nothing nice. They had dirt floors. Slave huts were very small, and the indentured workers, the living conditions were not good. So so this brings us to the question, why indentureship? So one of the reasons for indentureship, ladies, is to ease the labor problem in the Caribbean. Why was there a labor problem? Anyone? Why was there a labor problem? Go ahead, Jackson.
So, sir, there was a labor problem because slavery had ended in 1838, and
Mm-hmm.
the slaves had the option to stay on the plantation or leave and do peasantry. And most of them decided to leave the plantation because it was a site of trauma, it was where they were oppressed, so they decided not to return to the estate. So, there was a labor shortage for the plantations, and so the plantation owners not wanting to give up the business because it was so profitable in pre-emancipation, they decided to turn to other places like Madeira, India, because I think India was a British colony by that time, I
Mm-hmm.
think, China and those places.
Very good, excellent. Davis, you had your hand up? Or that was a mistake. Abigail? All right. Very good, Deidre. And you're very much correct. The trauma of the plantation, quite a lot of persons left the plantation. And not only that, they had a period after slavery, not after slavery, before slavery ended, that was called apprenticeship. And during that period is a period where the enslaved people would have contributed. Elliot, this is unit to history now, reparation. The, the, there was a period during which the planters paid about the British government paid 40% of the money to planters to free their enslaved people. You had to pay money. Don't think that they just decide, all right, slavery is going to end just like that. So the planters demanded that Britain should pay them because they are going to lose their properties, their enslaved people. And so the British government put 40% of that was 20 million pounds. However, the enslaved people had to pay the other 60% of the 60% of the 60% of the bill. Thus, they had to work free for the planters between 1834 and 1838. And I believe they would have introduced a 8 hour shift. And if you work extra, you were supposed to get paid. In reality, the planters never paid the workers. The the indentured work, not the indentured, the apprentice. And so because of that experience, the enslaved people said, we can't trust you planters, so I'm going to leave the plantation. Now, this was not a case throughout the entire Caribbean. This was not a case because in countries immediately after slavery ended, like for example, Barbados, which the land mass in Barbados is not as large as Jamaica. Immediately as slavery ended in Barbados, they would have introduced contract, a contract system with the enslaved. So most of the enslaved people remained on the plant. And you would have also seen that type of contract throughout much of the smaller islands. But places like Jamaica, Trinidad, or no, Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, they had quite a lot of land. So the enslaved people left immediately after. And so that caused a labor problem mostly on those islands. So the next reason is to reduce Black numerical superiority. Why? Because majority of the population at this time would have been Black, African, people of African descent. And so you need to reduce their numerical superiority. So you're going to bring in other people to challenge that numerical edge. Well, numerical edge is the same. That superiority of the Black. And also another thing is that they needed cheaper labor. So even those enslaved African, not sorry, the former enslaved African who decided that they're going to remain on the plantation, they demanded higher salary. They wanted more money. And the planters never wanted to pay them, so they went and they get the indentured. They they got the indentured servers. As Deidre Jackson said, she said that some of the persons who came were the Nigerians, um, the Portuguese Nigerians, the Chinese, the Indians, Germans also came, the Japanese came, liberated Africans. And the liberated Africans came mainly from Sierra Leone. So these were the where they actually came from. Now, once they arrived in the region, we are going to have demographic impact. Demography, as we know, ladies, is that in demography has to do with our population. So, in fact, over 400,000 Indians alone arrived in the Caribbean. James Ferguson, a historian, he said that the massive movement of people changed the demography of the culture of British Guyana and Trinidad. So we know for sure that there is going to be changes. If we have 400,000 Indians arriving in the Caribbean, then you are going to have sexual relation between Indians and those who were actually here. The Indians and some Europeans went in, some British and went in and they would have abused or raped the Indian woman. And so you're going to have miscegenation, the mixing between European and Indian. And that is going to create, I don't know what, but there is not a term that was put to that mixture. However, the Indians and the African, the East Indians and the African that mix together, they were called Dougla. All right, especially in countries like Trinidad. Well, in mostly in Trinidad. In Trinidad, they call that mixture Dougla because it is more prevalent in that society. The Anybody watch the show Big Brother on CBS?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right.
So that's a Canadian show?
It's also you have Big Brother Canada. I have Big Brother US.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I know the Canada one.
So that's a host. That's a show where they have a lot of people living in a house during the summer, and they compete and they try to win 500,000 US. Just like when you have Love Island on CBS. Which other reality show you have? Amazing Race. All of these. Maybe you're not interested in this generation. When you get older like me, you'll get interested in those shows. All right. So the quite a lot of Indians came, and that's going to cause mixture. In my figures. Okay. In Guyana alone, yes, in Guyana, which was called British Guyana, when they got independence, they changed the name just to Guyana, and the spelling also changed. 240,000 Indians came, 135,000 for Trinidad, 33,000 for Jamaica, 40,000, Guadeloupe, 2,500, and that is for Grenada, 2,500 for Grenada. All right. And Barbados, zero. The Indians didn't go to, they never had indentured workers there. And as I stated before, the reason why they never have indentured workers there is because they had immediately after slavery ended, they would have introduced a contract system between the former enslaved and the planters. The figures for the Africans and the Chinese, I don't have those figures, but what we're going to also see is racial mixture in the Caribbean between the Africans and the Chinese and the Indians, and then the Indian mixed with the Chinese Indian. I believe Lisa Anna is a Chinese Indian African or Afro Chinese Indian. That mixture. So you see that look. When you look at her, you really can 100%. You could tell that Indian is in her, but I could not tell that the Chinese was Chinese heritage. I couldn't. I knew that she had African heritage, but I couldn't tell Chinese. So her mixture is three: African, Chinese, Indian, and it would have come across as no. So demography is one way in which they are going to they these groups are going to influence the region. Another way is the culinary practices, and this is my favorite. I live at, what do you call that place again? Is Doubles, that Trini restaurant. The is this your group? So I live at a Trini restaurant. Every day they come and deliver roti. I love roti. So these are some of the different food that the they introduced into the region uh, curry, which is my favorite. Give me curry anything, I will eat it. Curry is just my favorite. I just love curry. Curry and rice, curry chicken and dumpling, brown provision, anything with curry. Uh, when I was growing up, one of the favorite would have been curry chicken and not curry chicken, curry chicken back. The curry chicken back with dumpling. I have a cousin when she cooked that, man. Trust me, no food left over when it comes to the curry chicken back and dumpling. And I'm not talking the chicken. You have two types of chicken back. You have the chicken back that is very bony, and you have the chicken back that have no flesh on it. You pay a little extra for it. Uh, so you have curry, roti, chickpeas, jira. Jira is like a seasoning. Some of the various different types of peppers that we use today in the Caribbean actually comes from the Indians. They brought it here. Eggplant, what they call bacon, aloe, which is they call potato, rice. I'm seeing two works, well, three things in the literature about rice. Some scholars say it is African that brought rice here. Some said Indians were the ones who brought the rice, and there are some said that Chinese brought the rice. Anyway, we know that rice. Um, Chinese food, noodles, various sauces, wonton. Wonton is this thing that it's like a, most of you know wonton, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good,
Yes, sir.
good. So wonton, pap chow, that most of you might not like in your food. And the Chinese style meat, so like sweet and sour chicken, the chicken in black bean sauce. Most of you that if you live close to Sovereign and you go to J Garden, then you know most of the different Chinese style meat. When I was going to JC, we used to live at J Gardens after school. Not again. I stopped eating food. Chinese food is not my favorite. The Indian food is my favorite. Also, this is one of the best thing that has ever arrived in the Caribbean,
Yes,
mangoes.
sir. East Indian.
Facts.
So, so the Indians also they brought the mangoes here, and nothing is sweet like I have a for me. I'm not sure for you between Julie and East Indian, which one you prefer?
East.
East Indian.
Julie.
East Indian.
East
Obviously.
Indian. All
Yes.
right.
Or you like long mango too?
Every mango, once it is mango, blackie, number, once it is mango, once it is a mango, you just give it to me. I love mango.
But which one do you prefer?
I don't have no preference, really.
Oh,
I just love mangoes. Eh, mangoes, I just love mangoes. And if I should have a preference, I would go with Julie. And the reason why I would go with Julie is because I will see the fruits of my labor. That is kind of, I would see my labor because when you finish with a Julie, you see the seed is clean with a Julie mango, right?
I don't like no stringy mangoes, so that's why East Indian.
Okay. But you see, when it comes to the East Indian mango is very sweet. It's sweet, 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 sweet. But guess
and
what?
juicy.
And juicy also. But the East Indian mango, no man, it take too long to clean the seed. I don't have the time for that. But I just love mangoes overall. And I think that is one of their greatest contribution. Don't go and write that in the exam that it was their greatest contribution. But That is one. They brought the mangoes here. Another is religion. They diversified the Caribbean in terms of religion. The Indians brought Islam, who we call Muslim. A lot of Jamaicans don't know the difference between Muslims and Jews or Hindu. They really don't know. A friend of mine went to Curacao to work, and she went to work there, and her job was to clean the Hindu temple. So I asked her, where do you work? And she said she worked at the mosque where the Muslim them work. That's what she said. That was her exact words. So when she sent pictures of the and then no, not even pictures, she said to me that, and then I have to clean their gods. And I said to myself, but that don't sound like like Muslim. I said, send a picture for me. And she sent a picture. And when she sent the picture, it was actually a Hindu temple. Same thing. I practice uh, Judaism faith, right? Which is between a mix between Christianity and Judaism. We call ourselves Messianic Judaism. So, and most people in my family, they ask me, which religion are you? And then they ask Islam, and they go about telling people that I am a now a Muslim, right? When I am actually practicing a form of Judaism. And so people really don't know the difference when it comes to religion. They have Islam, which is for the Muslim, Hinduism, which is the Hindu, and you have Buddhism that the Chinese brought. I think you have some, the, anybody know where is, Sugar and Spice, right? Off Red Hills Road, which is off Eastwood Park
Yes,
and Red
sir.
Hills Road. All right,
Yes,
so
sir.
yes, when you go to Sugar and Spice, the Sugar and Spice is very, very always packed with people, and parking is a issue. So if you go down that avenue, not very far down, it's past the apartment complex, and then you're going to see a small little gap. Then you're going to see another building. It look like a house. It's actually a Buddha temple, or a temple where Buddhism is practiced right along that area, right? So that is the first temple, Chinese temple that I've seen in Jamaica. On I believe it is South Camp Road. Is South Camp Road, there's a Islamic temple.
Yes, sir.
Yes. On South Camp Road, there's also an Islamic temple there. And so what we're seeing is that people, the religion. So in addition to the Chinese, not the Chinese, in addition to Christianity and also the Afro religion, we also have Islam and Hinduism and Buddhism coming into the region. Now, for us in Jamaica, we there are mostly churches that we see. For Barbados, mostly churches. For places like St. Vincent, mostly churches. But if you go to countries like Trinidad and Guyana, you'll see about 50% churches, 50%, well, I shouldn't say 50, about 40% churches, 40% or 45% in Islamic temples and we call it Hindu temples with Buddha. They are very much diversified in those territories. Moving along, another contribution to these countries are the coming of the Indians and the Chinese is festivals. And ladies, please to do individual research on these festivals. You can start the research now. Later on in the course, yeah, you will get a in your individual groups. I'm going to place into individual groups, and you're going to study each of these festivals, and you're going to do a presentation on it. Reason for that, 1 year they ask the students about Pagua, to write an entire essay about. And so, and the students were not able to answer the question. So later on, maybe about January, I will give you group presentations on these festivals. But for now, go online, go and watch some videos on Duvali, Pagua, Ose, I can't pronounce that, we call it, the Muslim festival name here. And also
So
the
it's Eid-ul-Fitr.
all right, thank you very much. Chinese, you have Dragon Dance Festival, Chinese New Year's. M- Not sure if most of you know the Chinese Benevolent Association on Old Oak Road, right in front of Jamaica College.
Yes, sir.
When I was going to school, I think the KFC is right next door. The I think it's badminton, one of that sports. There you go over there to play it after school. And so that is the the Chinese also, I think every January, February around that time, the Chinese have their New Year. All right. The next thing that they're going to come introduce in the Caribbean, especially the Indians, I'm not seeing music and dance from the Chinese from all the books I've been reading, and I'm not familiar with them. Not saying that they don't exist, but I'm not familiar. Maybe because the Chinese is more of a closer, they call it, group. They don't interact much with the society, just merely business that most of them interact with. Or at church, you'll find that, especially if you're a Roman Catholic or Anglican, you'll find that you'll have a lot of Chinese in those religion, well, denomination, Christian denomination. But you don't find much interaction with the Chinese. But for those of us who are familiar, the Indians have greatly influenced our in the Caribbean our music. You have chutney soca, musical instrument that they would have introduced, the tassa, the sitar, all of these musical instruments that they would have introduced. The Another thing, ladies, is their dress, the sari and the shalwar. Those that the females wear, these are Indian types dress that they also would have used, right? That is very, very popular. So if you go to countries, even right now, I have a friend, she's married to an Indian from St. Vincent, and she's African in her outlook. Uh, However, she wears only Indian clothes. And you have other people that wear Indian looking clothes, love the Indian looking clothes. They're beautiful. Chinese, I'm not seeing much people here wear the Chinese, but for the Indian for sure. And I have Chinese heritage because my grandfather's mother was a Chinese woman. And so I have direct descendants from a Chinese. And so my great grandmother was a Chinese. The language, they are going to influence our language here in the Caribbean. Especially, we might not speak the Chinese language, but when we go to wholesale, I used to still go to the wholesale. Uh, when you go to the wholesale, you're going to hear the Chinese language being spoken in these wholesale. You might not understand the language, but you know that it's something that you're hearing. So we are hearing Chinese language. Have they influenced some of the words that we are saying in the Caribbean, like, oh, the indigenous people influence certain words and the Africans? No. The Chinese, you hear the language, the real language, because they have retained their language uh, in perfect condition. Uh, Today, the Indians, well, the Indian lost their language, the African lost theirs, but the Chinese would have still maintained theirs. And I think that is a big. There's some surnames that are very popular on my register and very popular in the school. Some of your friends' surname, they have Chinese surname like Chang, Cheng, Ching, all of these, Wang, Young, all of these surnames. Also, the in Trinidad and Suriname, their dialect have quite a lot of Indian words in it, like Bajan, which is eggplant, aloe, which means potato, and there's quite a lot of Indian surnames there in Trinidad, like Maraj. The vice principal name is Bura Singh. That's an Indian surname. Singh, Bandu, Isun. I think this girl name is somebody read some news on TVJ with that last. Also, Maiku. Yes, I went to school with somebody with the last name Maiku. So I'm quite familiar with most of these Indian surnames. Economic impact on the Caribbean, the the Chinese and the Indians have influenced quite a lot of our stores. We have jewelry stores, they boost sugar production, especially the Indians. Almost the jewelry store in Jamaica are in the Eastern Caribbean is owned by an Indian. The Chinese have quite a lot of restaurants, wholesale. Yes, they popularized, they developed that concept in Jamaica of wholesale, right? Goods. Supermarkets, variety stores, they would have, they control quite a lot of that. So that those are some of the economic impact. Lastly, this is that I wanted a discussion on this, but if you notice in Guyana, there are two political parties in Guyana. Well, more than two political parties, but these are the two main leaders in Guyana. One person represent the Afro Guyanese, another person represent the Indian Guyanese. So their politics is based on whether you're Indian or whether you're African. Same thing in Trinidad. The current Trinidad opposition leader, former prime minister, her, the one second, Jackson. I know the time has expired. Coming, her, Kamala Prasad Bissessa, she taught at St. Andrew High School for girls. She taught history and English. Yes, the current opposition leader for Trinidad and former prime minister. This is what well, she taught at your school. I think that was her first teaching job. And the other party, which is PNM, represented by black. Yes, Jackson, go ahead.
So, sir, is it that when in Ghana,
Mm.
when one party wins, or is it just that they have leaders represent blacks and leaders represent Indians?
No, they don't have leaders. Just like you have PMP and JLP, uh, whoever win the election runs the country. So the political parties there are based on ethnic groups. So The truth is that on the outlook, they said, oh, we are all for everyone. Don't care which race you're from. But in reality, when they govern in the interest of their particular race. So the Indians govern in respect for their race, and the Africans govern in respect of their race.
Okay,
With,
sir. Thank you.
yes. So with that said, with in Trinidad, it is a little different because in Trinidad they have about the the Indo-Chinese population, no, well, the Indo-African population is split evenly about 45. Well, they have more Indians now than Africans in Trinidad. But it is not a vast difference. And then you have quite a lot of Douglas, that is the in-between person. People who are Douglarized, one, your father is Indian, your mother is African, you tend to swing votes. So you really don't care about Indian party or African party. Not every Douglas, but majority of the Douglas tend to vote on the line of the PNM. With with this country, Ghana, majority of Ghanaians are Indian. And so what you have in Ghana, when you have election in Ghana, most of the time the Indian party tend to win the election because you have more Indians there. And most people don't vote outside of here. So the Africans there since since about 1989, the Africans have only won an election there once, and the African Party won about one time, and that they were only able to win that election by joining with an Indian political party. Very, very difficult in countries like. And so, ladies, in so what we're with the coming of the Indian and the Chinese, you're going to have the increased ethnic tensions, conflicts over work, racial stereotype, along political parties along racial lines in the Caribbean. So those are some of the impact of the Indians and the Chinese. We don't have it so much in Jamaica because well, there are less Indians in Jamaica. We don't have that issue here. But I know that some Jamaicans don't like, and Afro Jamaicans don't like, which that should not. And it is not the Chinese who are here from 1838 that they don't like. They really don't like the Chinese who are coming directly from China since the early 2000s. I think those are the Chinese that most Jamaican have problems. All right, ladies, any question about the impact?
No, sir.
All right, ladies, thank you very much. We meet again on Monday. Monday, today is Thursday. Yes, we meet again on Monday.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye,
Bye,
sir.
sir.
Yes, we'll upload the presentation.